What is up everyone, my name is Vandogs and today I'll be bringing you my Grave Zorga deck profile, post Festival Collection 2022. Before I go into the profile, I wanted to let you know that the main focus of this channel is to deliver quality standard and premium content, so if that interests you, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit the notification bell icon to be notified when I upload new content. Now, onto the deck profile. So starting off with the ride line, we run one Dream Nibbling as the starter. We run the one Rancor Chain as a grade 1, the grade 2 is a T Husk Dragon, and for the grade 3, we run the new Grave Zorga from Festival Collection 2022. Alright, so hopping into our main deck, we run 3 Grave Zorga. So what I really like about the new Zorga from Festival Collection is that it allows us to add orders from our drop to hand so that we can alpha magic for the turn. The downside is that we have lost the ability to revive cards, in which the old Zorga did, but aside from that, it is a very welcome grade 3 that a new Zorga build. Okay, so next we'll be going into the Thrall Roaming Prison Dragon. So one of the problems that Zorga had previously before the introduction of Roaming Prison Dragon in DB204 was that we didn't really have anything threatening on board that made the deck scary. Now yes, we did make big numbers, but they would only hit for 1 damage, so most of the time they were easy to deal with. We also did have a Nectar of Sensationalism, but to get the 15k in crit to put on a Regard was slow at times. But if we could have had this pressure earlier on in the game, we could have finished our games both quicker and easier. What a Roaming Dragon does is that if we play an order, we get to revive it and choose one of the 2 skills to apply to it. But if we're on Alchemy Magic, we get both instead. So the skills are either you can give it 10k, or you can give it a crit. Now, on our grade 2 turn, if we can have him in the drop, but is discarding as Rideline fodder and have an applicable order to use on the turn, we could potentially rush in the early game and make our first grade 3 turn and onwards much easier depending on how much damage they are on. Or, if they have guarded a majority of the attacks in the early game, that just means our grade 3 turns are going to be much harder to guard. And again, if we get to use Alchemy Magic on our dragons, we get both skills now, making them even stronger than they were in the early game. Combine that with Zorga's first skill, given the 5k if we Alchemy Magic that turn, and in combination with the order Clouded Miasm, which also gives the Vanguard continuous skill of giving them front row an extra 5k. We'll go through with that in the video. It gives our dragons a total of 10k extra power in total. On Berserker Ride turns, it becomes 20k. This is all before being boosted and having any triggers applied to them. This card is most definitely a 4-of and a much needed card to the Zorga strategy. So at the grade 2s, we only run 4, but they are very, very solid. It is the Shadow Cloak. So Shadow Cloak is a definitely solid card in the Zorga strategy, as it allows us to put any order in drop provided that we don't have a copy in the drop already. This card really helps in getting us the correct orders in drop so we can consistently Alpha Magic on our turns. Its second skill is also very powerful, being able to bounce a Regard into our hand if we have performed Alpha Magic a turn. The targets for Shadow Cloak are usually Persona Rides, PGs, and triggers, and sometimes even boosters which we want to reuse, such as Sleeve Targeting Belt and Rogue Headhunter for the next turn. We'll go into those in the grade runs, which we're going into now. So for the grade runs, we run 4 Perfect Guards. So the 4 perfect cards are definitely self-explanatory. It stops big attacks, reduces the amount of cards we have to use from our hand to guard. And I also do like the ability of, if we don't have many cards in hand, like less than 2, we can just discard them for free, not having to discard anything, which is very nice. Okay, and then next we do run 3 Rogue Headhunter. So, Rogue Headhunter has the ability when placed to reduce the cost of Alpha Magic by 1 Counterblast, which sometimes makes our Alpha Magic turns costless, and can help when we may be using quite a bit of Counterblast for the next turn, over when we're using other skills aside from orders which require it. Secondly, being a really solid booster is very valuable in this deck, as it gets 5k power when you have played an order that turn, meaning it can make magic numbers behind Shadow Cloak and roaming prison dragons. Now lastly, we do have two one-offs, and that is the Sleeve Tugging Bell and Actia Sticky. So we'll start off with Actia Sticky. So the reason why we run one of this card is that it works as a tier for Malice, being able to sack 2 regards to clear our board for the dragons. Ideally, the cards you want to always be retiring is roaming prison dragons, so that we can bring them back after Alpha Magic and have them come in with their full effects again. The second part of the skill that I really like is being able to draw one after us retiring 2 and giving itself 5k power, making it again another solid booster like a rogue headhunter. Now lastly, we do have this Sleeve Tugging Bell. So the Sleeve Tugging Bell is here to recover our board, to recover our bound orders and use them for Alpha Magic again. She also does get 5k for each card returned to the drop from the Vine Zone, which is really nice too. But do keep in mind, it doesn't exactly make magic numbers, as it's 7k. But again, it is still a solid card nonetheless. Now, finally, we will go into the orders. So, first of all, we will go into the card we have mentioned before, which was for Clouded Miasma. So, Clouded Miasma is an absolutely exceptional card, being able to call a grade 3 or lower card from the drop and giving the Vanguard the continuous skill of the front row gets an additional 5k if you performed Alpha Magic this turn. Now, as discussed before, if you combine the power from Miasma and Zorga, you get to give the front row a continuous 10k buff for the turn, making your front row beefier and just that much harder to guard. One other thing I wanted to point out was that you can use this card to call out cards and use as Shadow Cloak targets to bounce back to hand and either create more shield value in hand or potentially create more aggression depending on what card was bounced back to hand. So for example, Persona Ride. Next we do run two Next we run two Gather Upon Me Wandering Souls. So this card is mainly here for the turns you really want to push with your Vanguard, as most of the time your Vanguard is very lacking, but your regards are quite threatening. And what's a better way to give your Vanguard what's a better way than to give your Vanguard an extra drive check and potentially reveal more triggers than you would have before? Next up, we run 2 Tearful Malice. Tearful Malice main purpose in this deck is to sack our dragons and then call them back after the Alpha Magic of our orders have been resolved. The draw, counter charge, and soul charge are really nice as well. Firstly, they get stop us from getting damage tonight. Have the extra soul for our Shadow Cloak and Zorga, and of course making our hand that much bigger. Now lastly, we do have 2 one-offs around on the deck. So we have Wild Intelligence, and then we also have In Search of an Ideal Faraway. So the reason why I run 1 Wild Intelligence is that it can be used in the early game to start developing a drop to see key pieces. So for example, your dragons, headhunters, orders. This also does very well in tandem with Cloud Miasma, as it does allow you to call 2 cards instead of 1. Now, it does cost a counterblast, but being able to mill free, putting 3 cards on the drop is definitely very solid. Unfortunately, we don't have Magnolia in the deck, otherwise we'd call 2 back. But again, just a really solid card. As I said, we don't run Hendrona anymore, so this is kind of like a little bit like a Hendrona as well. But I said we can keep reusing this with Zorga as well. We can bounce it back if we need to keep digging through our deck. And then lastly, In Search of an Ideal Faraway. So the reason why I run this is that it can make a very big booster for one of my front row regards. So how it works is that when I play this order, I give the regard the red text of when a unit attacks, this unit gets plus 5k. The idea is you would boost this with the regard against swing of the last, so that it gets the plus 15k. It would be nice if you could have this behind a roaming prison dragon, so that you can have potentially a 15, 25, 35k dragon if you use Persona Ride and your Alchemy Magic, on top of having a potential 28 booster. So it hits really high numbers, and if the opponent does not have a this opponent does not have a PG, they're going to be discarding a lot of cards from their hand. Now, I know I've talked about Roving Prison Dragon a lot. It's only because the card is insanely powerful. It's, again, I feel like the deck has changed a lot since this card's been introduced. Just like constant pressure is kind of what we needed. And again, once you get 2 in the drop, you're pretty much set for the rest of the game. Now onto the triggers. So we run 1 over trigger, and we run 3 fronts. Now these fronts are supposed to be the 20k fronts, so if you have those, if we run those, you can run draws as well. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, I just like the fronts having that extra shield value, and also pumping up my dragons by a lot more to not really have negative power, since it gives it instantly to the front row. It's also very handy too when you have to go 2 to pass, as if you build a front and you just say your Vanguard has triple drive because you've used the triple drive order, then technically all you really need is another trigger, and it's just easier to give the power to the Vanguard since you revealed the front. Next, we do run a crit. Now, yes, this straw here is supposed to be a crit. I'm currently waiting for it to come in the mail. It should hopefully be coming in soon. But yeah, definitely don't run Rainbow. Rainbow could work, but I personally don't think Rainbow is the way to go. And then lastly, we do run full heals, because heals save lives. What else can I say? Alright, so that's it for the deck. So thank you for watching my deck profile. And again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Alright, thank you. A-Dogs out. See ya.